All right, let's talk about one of the greatest novels ever written, Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. Today, we're going to look in the mirror with a man who sees himself with, well, perfect clarity, and yet understands almost nothing at all.
So let me ask you this. Is it possible to be brutally honest with yourself, to know exactly who you are, but still be completely blind to what's right and wrong? What if self-awareness doesn't actually lead to self-improvement? What if it's just a way to justify our own bad behavior? That's the puzzle we're digging into today.
Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. These are the shocking, ice-cold thoughts of Stepan Arkadyevitch Oblonsky. We'll just call him Stiva. We meet him the morning after his wife has discovered his affair, and Tolstoy, like a magician, puts us right inside his head.
Okay, let's dive into this. First, we'll set the scene on that disastrous morning in St. Petersburg. Then we're going to map out Stiva's incredible and honestly infuriating train of thought. After that, we'll put his ego under a microscope, break down the literary tricks Tolstoy uses to make him feel so real. And finally, we'll ask the big question: why does this guy from the 1870s still have so much to teach us?
So try to picture it. We're in a fancy home in 19th century St. Petersburg, but the air is just thick with tension. You can feel it. This family is imploding.
The guy we're zeroing in on is Stiva. Now, he's the brother of the Anna Karenina, and he's the husband of a woman named Dolly, who he has just betrayed in a major way. He's woken up on the couch in his study, not in his own bed, and we're about to get a front-row seat to his totally uncensored inner monologue.
And this is where it gets really good. Tolstoy doesn't just tell us what Stiva's thinking, he shows us step by step. It is an absolute masterclass in psychology. Let's trace how his mind works.
So first off, he admits the truth to himself. Yep, he was unfaithful. No, he doesn't really love his wife like he used to. But then, check out step 2. The mistake, as he sees it, wasn't the affair. It was that he was careless and got caught. He does feel some pity, but it's this weird, detached pity for everyone, including himself, for being in such an awkward spot. He just assumed his wife kind of knew and would let it slide. So the real shock for him isn't guilt. It's just how incredibly hurt and angry she is.
So you gotta ask, what kind of person actually thinks this way? Let's zoom out from what he's thinking to who he is. This is where you really see Tolstoy's genius for creating people who feel completely real.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates the core paradox of Stiva. On one hand, the man is incapable of lying to himself. He knows what he did. He knows he's not exactly a great guy. But on the other hand, there is zero, and I mean zero, repentance. He doesn't feel morally bad about it. The regret is purely about the mess it's caused. And his view of his wife, Dolly? Wow, it tells you everything you need to know. He doesn't see her as a partner anymore. He sees her as the mother of his children. A good one, sure, but kind of worn out. In his mind, she should just sort of understand his needs and give him a pass. It's so patronizing and, well, very much a product of his time.
Now, here's the thing that makes Stiva so fascinating. Tolstoy doesn't paint him as some evil villain. He's 34 years old, he's handsome, he's charming, everybody likes him. He's just got this sunny personality that draws people in. And that's crucial because it forces us to deal with a guy who's infuriatingly selfish, but at the same time, kind of likable.
And believe it or not, in this one little chapter, through this one man's personal crisis, Tolstoy sets up all the huge themes of the entire book. What is marriage? What's more important, duty or personal happiness? And the massive difference in what was expected from men and women. It all kicks off right here, inside Stiva's head.
So how on earth does Tolstoy pull this off? How does he get us so deep inside this character's mind that we feel like we're right there with him? Well, it's not magic. It's a very specific and very brilliant literary tool. It's called free indirect discourse. Now, that sounds super academic, but the idea is actually beautiful and simple. Basically, the narrator is talking in the third person. He did this, he felt that. But the actual words, the attitude, the feelings, they're all coming directly from the character. It's like the narrator is whispering the character's unfiltered thoughts right into your ear.
A perfect example is when Stiva thinks about his wife's reaction. The book doesn't say he thought to himself that she shouted in a vulgar way. No, it's smoother than that. The line is just dripping with his own snobby judgment and how vulgarly she shouted. We aren't just told what he thinks, we are experiencing his thought, his elitism, and his shocking lack of empathy as it happens.
And this creates this amazing irony that just hangs over the whole chapter. Stiva is so proud of himself for facing the truth about his feelings, right? But Tolstoy uses that very truthfulness to show us just how blind he is to the real damage he's done. His self-awareness isn't a tool for growth, it's a shield.
So okay, this all might seem like some dusty old drama from the 1800s, but Stiva's way of thinking and the questions it brings up, they are completely timeless. They speak directly to us, right here, right now.
I mean, Stiva represents one extreme, right? A kind of brutal honesty. He's being true to himself, but it's a selfish truth that just wrecks the people around him. And it forces us to ask, where's the line? Is being authentic the most important thing, even if it means being cruel?
Stiva definitely sees marriage as a social contract. He does his duty, he provides for his family, and he thinks that should earn him the freedom to find passion somewhere else. His wife Dolly sees it as a sacred promise of love. And that conflict, marriage as a duty versus marriage for passion, that debate is just as heated today as it was back then.
When you boil it all down, Stiva is just a perfect case study in how we justify our own actions. He shows us exactly how we can rationalize our mistakes, how there can be a huge gap between knowing who you are and actually doing something about it. And let's be honest, we all know a likable rogue who seems to get away with everything just because they're charming.
So, as we leave Stiva staring into that metaphorical mirror, the big question is left for us. How do we judge this guy? Is he a villain? Is he just a product of his society? Or is he a reflection of something deeply, and maybe even a little uncomfortably, human? That's the genius of Tolstoy. He never gives you an easy answer. He just shows you the man. Thanks for joining me for this one.